This sounds like 2008 all over again. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about Bank of America announcing zero down payment and zero closing costs mortgages for first-time home buyers in Black and Hispanic communities in certain cities and neighborhoods across the nation. Now, there's a few elephants in the room, but the very first one, the obvious one is, hey, ABL, isn't that racism to have a loan for one group of people and not the other? How can they do that? How is that legal? Well, I think the key is that they didn't say the loans are for Black and Hispanic people. They said the loans are for Black and Hispanic neighborhoods, communities, meaning areas that have a high Black and/or high Hispanic population. That's how they're going to get around it. But the other elephant in the room is, if you can't afford to put any kind of money down, I'm not saying 20%, at least 3, 4, 5%. If you can't afford to put any money down and the closing costs are an issue, then how are you going to be able to maintain the home? You see, I'm a homeowner. Before we get to the article, which I do have, I'm a homeowner, and I didn't put 20% down. I think it might have been 3.5%, 4% down, but I still had to pay $15,000 in cash. And you can't even get a loan for that. That can't be a credit card. That's got to be cold hard cash from your bank account. You got to wire it to the lender. Okay, so if you don't have that kind of money to where it's not going to hurt you, and if you give it, you're not going to be out back like, okay, how am I going to eat? If you can't just spend that money, you're going to have a hard time being a homeowner because there's so many costs associated with owning a home. If your roof goes, that's 10 bands right there. Okay, your HVAC, your plumbing, your small things, your lawn care. Can you buy a lawnmower for $400? Can you buy a weed whacker or just pay somebody to cut your grass every week or every 2 weeks? Your pest control, your garbage removal, pressure washing, all little small things. If you got an HOA, you must adhere to certain principles or you're going to have a problem. So homeownership is not cheap. And if you got to go through this route to be able to purchase a home, are you going to be able to maintain it? Or will you be in the same boat as the subprime mortgage crisis people were back in 2008? But before we go down that road, let's read this article here. I'll place this in the description box if you want to read it for yourself. But you see the headline, Bank of America announces zero down payment, zero closing cost mortgages, but not zero interest. Okay, them interest rates are going up and up and up. I have a 3% interest rate. How much will your interest rate be when you get a loan in one of these areas? 7, 8, 9, 10%. And the interest rate will beat you to death. Oh my goodness. But let's not do that right now. But they say zero closing cost mortgages, zero down payment for first time home buyers and Black and Hispanic communities nationwide. And it says residents in selected Charlotte, Dallas, Detroit, Los Angeles, and Miami neighborhoods will be offered the program first. So this is a pretty short article. We can go ahead and just knock it on out. Bank of America said it is now offering first-time home buyers in a select group of cities, zero down payment, zero closing cost mortgages to help grow home ownership among Black and Hispanic Latino communities. I like they didn't say Latinx, so shout out to them for saying Hispanic and Latino. I appreciate that. Quote, home ownership strengthens our communities and can help individuals and families to build wealth over time. AJ Barkley, head of neighborhood and community lending for Bank of America, said in the release, quote, our community affordable loan solution will help make the dream of sustained home ownership attainable for more Black and Hispanic families, and it is part of our broader commitment to the communities that we serve. I think this is more of a PR type of thing because they got in trouble for some discriminatory practices, if I'm not mistaken. I know Wells Fargo most certainly did because they were giving out what they called, not me, I'm not saying this, don't get offended, but they called them ghetto loans. They were giving out loans to Black and Hispanic communities, and they knew people couldn't pay it back, but they wanted to, I guess, up their diversity. But it became a problem when it was kind of like predatory lending. You know they can't pay it back, but on the other end, if you don't give out the loans, then you're racist. You know, I would just say, I don't really care what somebody says. I want to give out a loan based upon your ability to pay it back. It doesn't matter what color you are. That'd be how I approach it. And if it just so happens that more Black and Hispanic people are not able to get loans because they can't pay it back properly, I'd rather live with that than to give them a loan I know they can't pay back. And then they have this big mountain of debt on their back, which puts them in an even worse position than where they were before they came into my office. But I digress. Not quote, the loans require no mortgage insurance, the additional fee typically charged to buyers who put down less than 20% of the purchase price, and no minimum credit score. Disastrous. First of all, your PMI, your mortgage insurance, it's not even that much. I pay like $100 a month for that. If that's a problem, $100, homeownership is not for you. If you're going to be squabbling over $100 a month, home ownership is not for you. Point blank, period. Unless you live in a semi-bando that you paid $75,000 for. And from what I'm able to see from this, I think they're going to be giving out loans for those kind of homes because they say in certain communities. So I don't think it'll just be if you're Black and Hispanic and you live in the area, you're able to get a loan with 0% down, zero closing costs, high interest, but none of the other stuff. I don't think you'd be able to get that loan and then leave somewhere else. They probably want you to be right there in that community. And the houses won't go for a lot, and they're going to need a ton of work, which, again, it don't make no sense if you got to have all these concessions made for you to get the loan. How are you going to be able to maintain your house? How are you going to buy that roof when the roof goes? You need 10 bands right there in cash. Do you have it? I don't think so, but I digress. Instead, eligibility will be based on factors like timely rent payments and on-time utility bill, phone, and auto insurance payments. That's qualifications to rent an apartment, not to buy a house. Keeping it all the way real. That's not home ownership type stuff. You need to have money. You need to have good credit. You need to have the ability to pay a lot of money at once. Prospective buyers must also complete a home buyer certification course provided by Bank of America and federally approved housing counseling partners before they apply for the loan program, the bank said. The racial gap in home ownership rates in the U.S. remained substantial in 2020, the most recent year for which National Association of Realtors data are available. For white households, the home ownership rate was 72.1. That compares to 51.1 for Hispanic and 43.4 for Black. The Black home ownership rate was lower in 2020 than it was in 2010. Okay, so they're talking about the pandemic, blah, 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 blah. Now, here's the issue right here. Bank of America and other major financial institutions like Wells Fargo have checkered histories when it comes to mortgage lending for people of color and prospective buyers who have disabilities. Bank of America's Countrywide Financial, a subprime lender it purchased back in 2008, was fined $335 million in 2011 over claims that it charged Black and Hispanic home buyers higher interest rates than white applicants. In 2012, Wells Fargo agreed to pay $175 million to settle claims that it targeted people of color with risky home loans that were more expensive. And the city of Miami sued J.P. Morgan Chase in 2014, accusing the bank of predatory lending in communities of color. Like I said, because a lot of these areas have people that have bad credit scores, bad history with money, so they can't really afford the loan. So the bank must put certain things in there to protect themselves. That's just what that is. There ain't really nothing else to it. But as I close, I want to say this. This is not a good idea. If you can't afford the closing costs, if you can't even, I'm talking about not 20%. That could be a little much, depending upon how much your house is. But if you can't afford any down payment, 3%, 4%, if you can't afford that, and if you do have the money, you need to also be able to pay that and not have it hurt you. You see what I'm saying? Because it's one thing to have the money. If you don't have the money, forget about it. But if you do have it and it's going to hurt you to where you're going to be shirtless afterward, you're not ready. Keep on renting. People say that buying a home is cheaper than renting. Not necessarily all the time. It depends on how you're looking at it. You're looking at it in the short term, then no, it's not, because you got to have 15 bands off up top. Now, if you want to go to an apartment, all you need is what? First and last month's rent. That might cost you $2,000 or $3,000 or something like that, maybe $4,000 at the most. But a home, you need 15 bands up front for the down payment. Then you got to do other things, your pest control, you got to pay a bunch of things you don't pay for up front in an apartment or a house to rent. Over time, 5, 10 years, whatever, it'll be cheaper, probably. but you got to have a lot of money at once to pay for certain things. And if you don't have that, it's not really for you. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? Is it a good idea to have this program out there for Black and Hispanic communities? Will it rise home ownership? Will people be able to maintain their homes and not go into foreclosure, similar to what happened in 2008 with the subprime mortgage crisis? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I stand. It's not even about necessarily a racial thing, because you could probably be a white person living in one of these areas and get one of these loans. I think that'd pretty much be how it is, because it can't discriminate against you. But that's aside from the point. I think it's more of a PR thing to say that they're doing great for the Black and Hispanic communities, but ultimately it probably won't help that much. Now, may some be helped by this? Maybe so. Maybe so. If you get a house for $100,000 and it's in good condition and you don't mind living with certain imperfections that you don't have to get repaired, okay, that's one thing. But if you're trying to get a home for $300,000 and you don't have enough money for a down payment, how are you going to be able to really afford that? And then you're going to have a pretty high interest rate. I just don't understand how it's going to make sense for somebody who's dealing with a financial issue. If you're not ready for home ownership, if you don't have that money to be able to really invest into it and not have it hurt you, I would just say keep renting, rent for as cheap as possible, stack your money up, then go out there and get it. That should be how it goes. And your credit, please improve that. You're going to need access to credit, because if you don't have a lot of money, you're going to need access to credit. You shouldn't rely on that. So I would just say get money, then go out there and do what you got to do. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.